Call to order the Board of Stokes County Commissioners, April the 28th, 2 p.m. meeting. I'll ask Mr. Barney Castle to have our prayer.
Let's pray. Gracious Heavenly Father, we come to you today, Lord, in the name of Jesus. We ask you for your many blessings. We thank you for another day of life and another beautiful day. Lord, we pray that you go with the families that lost a loved one this weekend down in the Eden accident. We pray that you send a special blessing their way and comfort them, Lord, and bless them. Go with us and guide us as we take measures for our county to be pleasing to you and to our citizens. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need approval of the agenda.
Make a motion we approve if there are no other changes or additions or anything.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we go to public comments. Olivia, do we have any?
We do. We have two.
Okay.
I'm going to read off the procedure for public comments. Each speaker will be allowed 4 minutes for public comments with the option to yield their time to another speaker or add an optional minute depending on the number of speakers that have signed up while abiding by the 30-minute total time limit. All speakers shall maintain good decorum and show respect and good manners. Vulgar language, profanity, inappropriate gestures, insults, personal attacks, accusations, and inflammatory language is prohibited. The chairman of the board shall enforce these rules, and anyone not complying with these rules shall not be allowed to continue. At their discretion, members of the board may address items from public comments in the portion of their meeting during the commissioner's comment period. Our first public speaker, we have Don Jennings.
Good afternoon. It's my great pleasure today to speak to you in favor of the solar farm rezoning request. First, a little background. My family moved to this area when I was a teenager. After going away to college, my spouse and I chose to return. She served the children and families as a teacher, providing 30 years of service to Stokes County schools. We raised our family here. The people, our community of family and friends, the land, these things matter to us. The Old Town Solar Project matters to us because it fits the values that are rooted in this place. And this is the place we call home. Why here? Why this place? Why now? Sorry. Because there's a willing landowner who has decided that it's in their best interest to use their land this way. Because there's a company willing to invest millions of dollars in our community. Because our families and businesses need inexpensive energy, and solar energy is among the cheapest forms of electrical generation. Because we need reliable electricity. Recent storms have exposed vulnerabilities in the grid's reliability, thus affecting people at the worst possible times. Combining solar PV and battery energy storage meets the need for reliable energy. Because the project will add steady, long-term increased tax revenue that can support the vital services that the county provides its citizens. Funding for our schools and libraries, public safety, and social services. These services matter to us. Thank you for your time and careful consideration. I respectfully ask you to approve this rezoning request for a project that will strengthen our community now and in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chad Jarvis.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm in a much better state after the first time I spoke. I had just had knee replacement and was in quite a bit of pain, which I'm sure y'all were after 5 hours here that night. I'm speaking in favor of the solar farm. After our last meeting here and some of the things that were brought up by people, they were good points, but you already have a solar farm to the south. which has not been well managed and has caused a lot of issues with people and the optics of it. That needs to be addressed. But you do have this corridor of energy production. The biggest reason why I would even consider supporting this is the fact that it's Duke Energy. We know that Duke, they lose a tree, it will be replaced. I understand that they are willing to put up upfront money in case something happens. They don't get to it quick enough and the county's interested in replacing it on the spot. Again, it's not Lick Creek. It's an entirely different operation. It's increased energy production with the technology, and the one thing that I really am impressed with is the battery capability, the storage. When we have grid issues here, and we will, you look at the area to the northwest Guilford County area, we hopefully won't have the rolling blackouts that other areas of the state have experienced because of this battery capacity. It's pretty robust. I will tell you the options could be worse. I grew up down east, and you could have a hog farm there. It is a farm. There's other options that could be worse. I will tell you that, as you're probably aware, the tax base increase is a now thing. And with the demand that the county is facing for services increasing and finances, you get a near-term increase in your ad valorem tax. There are also legislative changes that most of you are aware of that have been dwindled down to the point that it is really about the tax changes as far as solar farms. I can't tell you for certain that that is retroactive to those that are receiving it, but the best information I received from House Rep aides is it is. There is a solar farm in Montgomery County that was used as a test base for the agricultural component with sheep, literally, and has a great success in the actual agricultural blend of this with the sheep production, wool production, meat, and those type of things. So it's not just land sitting there with panels, it's still in agricultural production. The other thing that impressed me is the landowner, his willingness and already proactiveness in respecting cultural resources. The area through there is rich in Paleo-Indian activity and the amount of artifacts that have been already recovered from there. Again, what most people refer to as the Sara Princess came from that area. She was excavated there. But his willingness to be proactive and gain that, and Duke's willingness to continue to work with the Office of Cultural and Natural Resources and Historic Preservation. This also gives us a near-term option for energy demand. And I'll go back to what I was referring to earlier, PTI. We'll know within weeks if an aircraft manufacturer is wanting to relocate there. At peak production, that's 10,000 jobs. You're looking at 30,000 additional people. They're going to come this way. And also the spin-off manufacturing. Our whole southeast corner of Stokes County is primed for that type of manufacturing input. We have rail, access to PTI within 20 minutes, and quick access to an interstate. So with all those things said, I can't help but think that this is a good option. And again, I respect property rights. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Those are all the public comments.
Okay. Conflict of interest. Before moving further, does any board member have a conflict with any of the items on the agenda for today, or one that might be perceived as conflict of interest? No. Consent agenda. I need approval on
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did I skip over something?
Commissioner
Yes.
comments, if you
We'll substitute that. Yes. Brad, go ahead.
Welcome everybody to, especially those of you in person, and also the people that are joining on the streaming and YouTube. It's a beautiful day today. I really don't have much to comment on right now. I'll save a lot of it because I think it relates to some of the discussion agenda that we're going to have here shortly. But it's days like today. I know when I woke up this morning to go feed the animals and take a leisurely walk with my dogs, it's you really know what it's like to live in a beautiful county of Stokes County. And so it kind of goes into where we'll be talking about a little bit on some stuff, but we got a beautiful county with a lot of great people and an excellent culture. And sometimes we may take it for granted, but we really are blessed with us being able to live here in Stokes County. And that's all I got, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Rick?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd just like to welcome everybody. It's good to see a good crowd here today. We got interesting topics as usual, so that's all I'll say so we can get on with our business.
Okay, Wayne?
Again, I just kind of iterate what everybody else said. Great to see everybody watching live stream. Blessed with another beautiful day, so good to see y'all.
I'd just like to again welcome everybody. Thank you for being here today, and those watching online. We do have a packed agenda that we probably need to get to, but I do want to mention, as Wayne mentioned in his prayer, that our thoughts and prayers go out to the families of everyone involved in the Eden accident, the ones that are recovering and the ones that have lost a loved one, and our thoughts and prayers are with everyone.
Okay, thank you. Jeff?
Just one thing I'd like to comment on, and this is for the benefit of the public. We are moving forward in developing our Stokes County Parks and Recreation Master Plan, and I want everybody to know that we have a couple of key opportunities for folks to come and tell us what you think and what you think is important with regard to the development of that plan and things that we need here in Stokes County. They both occur on Tuesdays. They're in successive Tuesdays. The first one is Tuesday at 5:30, starting at 5:30, going to 7:30 at the Arts Place, Tuesday, May 13th. And the second one is the following Tuesday, May 20th, at Stokes Provisions in King. It's going to be a drop-in style thing, so if you don't show up at 5:30, that's okay. When you come in, you can tell folks what you think and have some interaction with folks about where we're going. So, thanks for that opportunity.
Thank you. Amber?
Just thank you all for being here, and I just ask that everybody remember the Eddie Anderson family in your thoughts and prayers.
And we'd like to welcome Olivia Jessup, and we're not going to put you on the spot, but you're welcome to say something.
Just very thankful to be here. Looking forward to working with everyone, the Board of Commissioners, as well as the public. So thank you.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming too, and after our last meeting, let's get to it. Okay, that brings us to the information agenda, and Mr. Hooker.
Did we vote on the consent?
We did.
Yeah, we went out of order.
We went out of order.
That's right, we went out of order. I remember now. We went out of order. Okay.
Just to keep y'all on your toes.
Good to see you. Thank you for having me today. This is a report that I give every quarter. This is on the first quarter of our calendar year, third quarter of our fiscal year. I guess everyone has the report in front of them. You can see our excise tax collections are more than double our recording fees. That's been the trend in the last few years since the market's been so hot and prices have close to doubled over the last 5 years. It's pretty comparable the last few years outside of that first year following COVID, where interest rates were significantly lower, and it led to a lot of new sales and a lot of refinances, which we get both the mortgages and the deeds in the office. So we were very busy during that time. We've stayed steady since then. Transactions and revenue were down over the same period last year, about 6%, not a significant amount. We recorded 378 deeds, 278 deeds of trust, 752 miscellaneous documents. That's a broad variety of things. 65 plats. We did have 4 birth certificates. That was something we don't get that often since our hospital doesn't deliver babies anymore, but 4 home births, I imagine those were. 102 death certificates, 42 marriage license, That quarter is our slowest quarter for marriages. Notary oaths, there were 33. I think there's a lot of copies there, 793. Our total revenue for the quarter was $162,741.25, and the state collected $63,593 of that, and our net revenue for the quarter, January 1st through March 31st, $99,148.25. Those are the financials. This is going to be pretty brief. Office updates. I just came from Lawsonville. The Senior Services Expanded Services program had myself, Richard Bram, and Tori Mabe up there speaking to that group. They're still up there. They had to bring me here. Richard had to go back and pick up Tori. They're still up there speaking, and we'll be at the King Senior Center and Wantico Senior Center over the next few weeks as well, talking about different topics from our offices. March 1st, we did implement online marriage applications. That's another service we have online now, and that's cut the time that the couple spend in the office in half. If they complete that application process online and submit it online, it's cutting it down to about 15 minutes. They're in and out. It used to be a half hour. In-card workshops, that's our Registered Deeds Association spring workshops they have every year. Myself and one of our deputies will be traveling to Dunn, North Carolina, Wednesday for one of those workshops, and the other two are going to be attending virtually. There was a virtual option this week as well. I'm not keen to put 4 people in a virtual workshop. Everybody's going to be busy, so we had to leave somebody behind to run the office. So 2, we're going in person. The other 2 are doing virtual options on Thursday and Friday. That same workshop's getting split into 2 different sessions, Thursday and Friday. Our genealogy workshop that I've been working on with our society, Genealogical Society, has been set for August the 23rd. This is our 3rd annual workshop at the Arts Place from 9 to 5. We have a guest speaker, Bill Veselick, who's an archivist and family history expert. Other speakers will include myself and some officers of the Genealogical Society. It will be catered, so there will be food, and everybody likes to eat. No registration fees, or we'll have donation, and donation should cover pretty much everything. The last 2 hours of that is reserved for research, both at my office and more than likely the library as well. They have that history room in there with a lot of records and indexes and so forth. Haven't ironed that out with the library, but they were very open to working with us last year, and I anticipate that again this year. Looks to be a good time, and it's designed for beginners and experienced researchers alike. And speaking of looking in your friends and family in small towns, it's a small world. I haven't seen Mr. Jennings in about 30 years. His wife was my 2nd grade teacher at Lawsonville, and I remember seeing him then in the classroom. He had darker hair then, but it's a small world. And Brad was talking about what a lovely place we had to live in. And it is, and it's a small world. Everybody knows everybody somewhere along the line. Our staff continues to work diligently, record and index and scanning all documents and assisting our customers with their needs, and very proud of the work they do every day, and we've got a great team. I've said that recently to somebody that I think the office has always been on 6 to 8 cylinders, but I think we're on 10 or 12 now. It's going very, very well. And that's all I've got today.
Brandon, as usual, you do a great report, and I know that you pour all your heart and soul into what you do, and I know you didn't cover this in your report because it's one of your side things, but I appreciate you being a historical society and what you all do with that, and I think that's part of being part of the community, a leader. And I just want you to know that we take notice of that, and appreciate it.
Thank you very much. I'm on tour there too. I've been giving tours at the old courthouse the last month. I've got 2 more one more next month.
Brandon, what date did you say the genealogy thing was?
23rd of August, 9 o'clock at the Arts Place.
August 23rd.
Mm-hmm.
And you you have to register for that ahead of time?
You don't have to pre-register. It'd be nice, just so we know how many mouths to feed. But
Oh, okay.
yeah, just show up. You want to come first thing in the morning. The best speakers are in the first half of the day because we try to line up, especially our guest speaker, because he's an expert and we want people to hear him. And a lot of folks tend to leave. Well, not a lot of folks, but some folks, if they're going to leave after lunch. You know, they're going to stay and eat, and then they're going to go. So we put our guest speaker up front there in the morning. That's at 9 o'clock at the Arts Place.
This is Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Good report.
Thank you.
All I have. Okay. Wayne?
Well, as usual, always a great report, always good detailed, and I really appreciate what you do for this county.
Thank you.
I'll echo that. Thank you, Brandon. It's a good report as always, and we appreciate everything that you do in the Register of Deeds office. And like you say, I think you're running on hot on all cylinders.
Thank you.
We appreciate all the hard work and the extra stuff with the Historical Society. Thank you.
Same here. I know you've helped me on several items, and I believe you know what you're doing.
Do what we can.
And I hadn't forgot you. Me and Tawana are donating that book that everybody's dying to have.
Take your time.
To
It's your
fill the
book.
rest of you in. I'm working on my family tree, and I had a piece of paper that showed that Joseph Winston, and what was the term? Warrant, I think it was. I take it granted. It was when Surrey County was Stokes was part of Surrey County, and Richard Wood was given 150 acres at Snow Creek from Joseph Winston in 1778. So I guess I'm the real deal. I'm hardcore Stokes.
Yeah,
But
Commissioner
I
Wood.
was able to get a copy of that book, and I'm going to donate it to the Register of Deeds so people that's working on it can look up people.
It'll have a special place on the shelf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that ends our information agenda. Now we go to our discussion agenda, and HR Director Jamie Clark will present vehicle use policy. And you made everybody happy, right?
I think so. I hope so anyways. I'm going to pass around some copies because we did have a couple of changes since I was here last.
Changes from the agenda that you just put out?
Yes, sir. So, like I said, we're back here again with the vehicle use policy that was presented a couple of meetings ago. And Commissioner Chandler, I think you had brought up that the original policy that we had presented kind of made it look like we needed to report our injuries and accidents before we needed to seek medical attention and call 911. So we did address that in here. That change has been made on page 6, and it was on the agenda that was posted online. However, we like to think that we know everything that's going on with our employees, but a lot of times we don't. And so we found out a little bit later that by only allowing county employees to drive county vehicles, it kind of hurt us in emergency situations. So right now, if there were a life and death situation, and we had employees on the scene of an accident or CPR or something, a life or death situation, and both medics need to be in the back of an ambulance, a lot of times a member of a volunteer fire department would drive the ambulance to the hospital so that both medics could be in the back with the patient. I've reached out to our risk management coordinator with the NCACC. I've spoken with Brandon Gentry. I've spoken with Scott Aaron. And we have confirmed that the fire departments do have their own insurance that covers them driving our vehicles, and that our insurance will cover them driving our vehicles as long as they have our permission. So on page 3, we have made one additional change. It's under use of county vehicles. We've added one sentence that says, volunteer fire personnel may be authorized to operate a county ambulance if they have received explicit approval from on-scene staff managing the situation. This approval must consider the individual's qualifications as well as the operational requirements during the incident.
Can I ask a stupid question? So, what is the, I mean, maybe Wayne can kick in too, but what is the training, what type of training is given to drive one of our ambulances, and is that it, so with the, and I'm not saying in an emergency where it's life and death, I mean, no one's gonna nitpick, whatever. But at the same time, I think that if there's a huge discrepancy between what our training requirements to
Right.
operate the ambulance compared to a fire
So,
truck.
the requirements to drive an ambulance are that you have to be 18 years of old and hold a valid driver's license. However, Stokes County prefers, and I know that all volunteer fire departments, I think you cannot operate an emergency, am I correct, Wayne? You can't operate a fire truck or emergency vehicle without having either completed your EMT or taken the training for emergency
Yeah, the EVD class.
VD class, yes. So it's not a mandatory course, but from my understanding, no one operates the apparatus in the county without it.
What is the definition for the county's individuals' qualifications?
So for our definition, the way Brandon explained to me, to drive an ambulance is you're 18 years or older and possess a valid driver's license.
That doesn't make any sense.
I can't G-haul with that one.
That
Because I got some 18-year-olds I won't let drive my vehicles.
Right.
I won't let them drive animals.
Right. Well, and I guess where we put the wording in here that the qualifications as well as the operational requirements meet. So if our requirements are that they have to hold that VFD, I'm sorry, I'm getting the acronym wrong, I'm sure, but we can reword it to include that specific course. But I know Brandon said that it was not a certification, it was just a completed course.
I guess we need to back up and make sure that we're sufficiently training our personnel first
Well,
to drive an ambulance, code traffic, and
our employees, are you talking about our employees? Okay, so ours do. If they complete their EMT or paramedic, they do have that training during their education. It is a requirement of that profession.
And so then you're saying, though, that with volunteer fire department personnel, when they pass their EMD?
EVD class.
Okay.
It's emergency vehicle driver's class is what it is.
Okay. Is it comparable? I mean, do you think?
Somewhat, but it's not like going down the road, emergency traffic. I mean, you in a parking lot, but
Yeah.
we have a situation arise in our district. We have a bad call. This is what we do. I can't speak for other fire departments, but no one from our department will drive that ambulance unless they've got experience driving an emergency vehicle that's going down the road, running a good rate of speed. I most time try to put an EMT in there just in case something does go south in the back and they got to stop and go back there and help them. At least they know what they're doing instead of just somebody getting in there that, I'm just driving. But the thing they got to remember is when they get behind that steering wheel, they got three people behind them. That's the issue that I've always had, and I've told my guys that. When you're going down the road, emergency traffic, remember something. You got three people's lives in your hands back here. So don't be driving crazy, I know you got lights, sirens, and all that, but that still don't give you the right to blow through red lights, stop signs, and all that, But I think it's a gray area there. We've always done it. I've drove them multiple times in, which been driving emergency vehicles 50 years. But there again, you've got to be safe. And as far as a county standpoint of it, I just like to see more of a definition of qualifications to the 18-year-old, blah, blah. You can't drive our trucks at our station unless you're 21. gotta be at least 21-year-old to even drive our Suburban. So, you know, everybody's got their own policies, but, you know, I think from a county standpoint, I just don't like the individual's qualifications. I'd like for the county to spell it out a little bit more in detail. You gotta have this driving class, or you gotta be EMT, or blah, 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 because this is directly dealing with the emergency situation. It's what it's dealing with. And Dr. Nelson has already done implemented to us that now to run medical calls in Stokes County well, you can run calls, but you cannot initiate patient care unless you are an EMT or higher. He done that last month, so that's one thing our medical director has done. But this is a very risky thing. I mean, you know, because you take somebody that's never drove an ambulance, or just, you know, he's drove a fire truck and he jumped in this ambulance and he wants to go down the road running 90, you know, you don't know about this vehicle. So that's the point I'm trying to say. A lot of people never drove these ambulances, you know. But I can speak for my department. I put somebody behind the steering wheel that I know has drove them before and drives emergency vehicles. You know, if there's nobody there to do it, I'll do it. I'll drive them in. Always have, because, you know, I don't want to see nobody getting a wreck. You know, that's just my point on it.
I just have a concern that we're setting ourselves up for failure. It's hard to describe. There's 13 different things that you know that when you're running code traffic and you're not even familiar with where the siren button is, and you're alternating wig rags, and then like, you know, Wayne briefly touched on it, but, you know, general statute is very specific. You know, you don't bust stop signs, you don't bust traffic lights, you come to a complete stop and you know, and clear traffic. And I mean, I would just like something to where it's more in depth in writing of so we know what our expectations are for our people that are driving emergency traffic, and compared to what the volunteer fire department training is going to be. And when you come to training, what is it? You do it once and you're good for 30 years? I mean...
No, right. And I would have to reach out to Scott and Brandon to help me with that, because I'll be honest with you, I don't know the rules and regulations and everything that comes along with operating an emergency vehicle. So I know that there are training hours required, you know, for some departments, but like you said, it's probably not for all.
Emergency response, driving vehicles is one of your most highly liable areas. And
I thought I heard you say, Jamie, that it's part of the EMT qualification.
Mm-hmm. It is for
That's
EMT.
where they get their formal training.
Mm-hmm. But not all volunteer firemen are EMTs.
Right.
And in our department,
I think what I'm saying is, I think we can be comfortable that our employees who are assigned to drive these emergency vehicles are qualified to do it. And the gray area, the question here is the volunteer firefighters that in an emergency situation we have historically done this, and we tried to craft language in the policy that would allow us in certain emergency circumstances to continue to do that. If you're not comfortable with that, then we can take a step back and look at that. But I think I also heard that all of our volunteer firefighters that have gone through their medical certification also get that training.
They do. And also through our VFIS policy, our insurance policy, even me, as long as I've been driving, I have to drive them trucks so many hours per year and record it and send it to them.
Right.
So
And then just from a practical standpoint, I would guess that, and based on the size of the vehicles, driving a fire apparatus in emergency situations is more demanding and riskier than driving an ambulance.
Correct.
Oh, that was going to be my question is if the people who are having to step up and drive the ambulance because both paramedics need to be back there with somebody in a life or death situation, and they're already trained to drive a fire truck. You're not going to put anybody in an ambulance that can't already drive a fire truck and has that qualifications to drive a fire truck.
I can only speak for our
Your
department
department.
on that.
Well, if we
I
can
won't.
make sure all
Yeah.
volunteer fire departments are following that criteria, then we should be okay. As long as they're certified to drive a fire truck, they should be able to drive that ambulance.
Yeah,
We could add language
I take exception with that.
we could add language in the
Well,
suggested
if you
edit
know how to
here.
operate the lights and sirens and even bigger apparatus, then I would think you could handle an
Completely
ambulance.
different. It's a completely different dynamic between the box truck of a emergency response vehicle from as a paramedic standpoint compared to a fire truck. And you're never going to get to the speed level, or you shouldn't get to the speed level of what that ambulance is
Right.
going to get up and go. Two totally different things. There is no way I would feel comfortable telling someone to jump into an ambulance and take off on emergency traffic without if them not even ever having driven an ambulance before. That's insane.
Take my chances if I was in the back having a heart attack.
Well, I hope you don't
paramedics
kill
back there
anybody.
with
I
me.
mean, I hope you don't kill anybody.
All I see is lawsuits.
I think I can ease this. I think I can ease the mind a little bit on this. Most of you medics know us, and they know which one can drive and can't drive. Like a lot of times in our district, they'll open the back door and say, "Barney's still here? Yeah, well, he's going south. Let's get drive us in." And I know they do this in other districts. They'll pick an individual that they know that has drove them in before and can drive an emergency vehicle. I don't really see one of them medics picking somebody, saying, "Well, I don't know." They ain't gonna pick nobody they don't know who it is. I can promise you that.
Basically, it would be up to the discretion of the medics.
They're the ones most times they'll pick who they want to drive, or they'll ask that person, "Will you drive me in?" Because they're comfortable with them,
That's true. They're not going to want to put their lives at risk of somebody driving them that don't know what they're doing.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm on the insurance board that insures the counties, and the biggest claims we have and the most frequent claims are all these emergency vehicles that are doing things they shouldn't be doing, and killing people and running intersections and so forth. So this whole thing, the whole concept here makes me a little nervous, to be honest with you. I guess if we're going to do this, it says, for one thing, it says the on-scene staff will give somebody permission to do that. Who's the on-scene staff? Who's
That'll be the EMS workers. That'll be the EMS people,
EMS?
The ambulance.
ambulance crew.
They'll pick somebody to drive their ambulance. Okay. I might make that more specific, I think, in the language if we're going to do this. Those trucks are big trucks, those ambulances are, and they don't stop on a dime, and I guess we just really need to minimize this as much as possible of it, the number of occurrences where we approve doing this, because, I mean, I met a fire truck the other day on a curve, and I thought it was going to get up on the left two side wheels. It was going so fast. Yeah, I know, unfortunately. And so these really, a lot of these guys are, like Wayne, after somebody said, are kind of inexperienced and bulletproof at young ages, and so I think we really got to make sure that we have people with the proper judgment that we allow to do this, if we can incorporate all that into this policy.
So,
And make it rare.
and then it's just, I know that you can't, and the manager probably can't answer this either, but So, I mean, how often is it a situation where both paramedics have to jump in the back to make sure that they get to the hospital? I would offer up, would it be possible to put someone that's there with the fire truck that's EMT certified and let them be in the back with the paramedic, and let the other paramedic that drives that ambulance all the time to drive the ambulance? I'm just trying to wrap my head around why would we put somebody in our ambulance that's not trained to drive in our ambulance instead of putting an EMT? Because I mean, there should be a lot of EMTs that are on the fire trucks, right?
They are, but well, I'm gonna touch on that a little bit. They won't be put in the back because they won't. They don't want the responsibility. Because once the paramedics get there, we turn the responsibility of that patient over to them. So it's technically their patient, not ours no more.
But they couldn't operate under the paramedic supervision?
Probably, but they wouldn't want to.
Dr. Nelson probably ain't going
Probably
like that.
Dr. Nelson, that'd be a statement for Dr. Nelson. He probably wouldn't like that. Especially you got two medics in the back. I'm gonna say he probably wouldn't agree with that.
We don't run EMTs with the county in the back. We don't run any EMTs.
The county has got some EMTs right now on the ambulance, yes, but they don't ride with critical patients. It's just medics only that ride with critical patients.
And it's like Wayne said, from my understanding, this is just critical care. I don't think it happens that often.
It very rare happens. You know, you're lucky if you do it 2 times a month. But it's something that just comes up every once in a while. And when the first policy came out, that's when I called you and said, we may have a problem here on page 2 with this paragraph, you know, if a bad situation does occur. But it ain't something that's an every week thing that happens. No, it's very, very seldom. But most of the time, like I said, they know looking on that scene who can drive and who can't drive. And most of the time they're going to pick that person they know that's drove them in before. And then the EVD class is a good thing. I mean, you go take it, you drive an ambulance, and to the point you were talking about the radios, the lights, and all that stuff, they show you all that, you know. And granted, some ambulances are made different than others, but they're basically the same, but, you know. And every once in a while, they'll bring the ambulances to our station, and we go over them. The medics go over them with us. Because I got in one night, drive them in, and tried to pull it in gear, and it wouldn't go in gear. I forgot about the safety button.
Mm-hmm.
So that keeps somebody still in it. You just got to know where it's at. But anyway, like I said, I've drove them in multiple times, so yeah, but as far as putting the EMT back there, I'd send that question by Dr. Nelson before I made a decision on that, because I about know where he's going to go with that statement. No. Especially being a critical patient. So he wants both medics back there. Our ambulances now, a lot of people, well, now I call them open to care unit, that this county don't realize how blessed they are with the medics we got, with what Dr. Nelson will let them do. They can do everything in the back of that truck but sew you up. That's it. They give you blood, they ventilate you, the whole 9 bits. We are very blessed in this county to have the medics that we got, the knowledge of what they can do. So that's why I would say if it's critical, he'd want both of them back there.
So, when you first started talking about the policy, you said that you consulted with somebody at the risk management, and they say it's okay.
But she is correct on one thing. If I'm driving it, we have a wreck and I get hurt, the insurance on me is through the fire department, because what I do is, like if the day they ask me to drive, I'll check en route and I'll tell dispatch, leave my ticket open. I'm technically still on that call.
But unfortunately, if there's a wreck and the county's at fault, the the other people are going to sue the county too. They're not just going to sue you.
Well, they coming after everybody.
Yeah, so we got to make sure, that we're, but if if the risk, what do you think? If the risk management group is saying, hey,
Well, yeah, we've been told that we are covered. Our policy covers it, the situation. That doesn't mean that we still might get sued and it might exceed the limits of our policy, and you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
So there's always risk out there.
I'm a little surprised they would endorse that personally.
Well, let me knock on wood before I say this. I can honestly say I've been in the fire department almost 50 years, and we've never had an accident where one of the guys from the fire department was driving the vehicle.
your fire department, your station.
I don't know.
Let's clarify that.
I really don't know of any department that would have had a wreck that somebody else was driving.
The county would know.
Other than the EMS people.
Our ambulances, we would know that. Yes, Brandon, that.
And we're very fortunate, especially as much as they're on the road now,
All right, what do y'all want to do?
Just in discussion. I just would like some clarification.
Where did this come from the agenda to the paper copy? The addition?
So we heard back from the NCACC this
Okay,
morning.
you were waiting on, okay.
Are you looking to put this, you want this in front and go on action agenda?
Yeah, if you're comfortable doing that, and if this specific provision is something that you're just not comfortable putting in a policy right now, an option could be that you could approve it without that provision now, and we could continue to research the appropriateness of adding that provision back in the future and bring it back to you for a modification later on.
What's your input?
I think that's fine, what Judge suggested. If you want to approve it today, just take it out. And then if at a later date, you can amend it to put it back in with some kind of restrictions, qualifications that everyone would be comfortable with.
I'm good with that. I think it needs better definition, more specifics about
And I would just wait and do it all later then.
giving approval.
That's what I would do if we're gonna,
It won't take that long,
and just,
meeting or something.
yeah, just bring back the language you want, but the next meeting we'll approve it.
And you like coming in front of us anyway.
So who would determine the qualifications? Would that be something y'all would want to come from Dr. Nelson, from Brandon Gentry?
Me personally, I'm speaking for myself, not the other four. I'm speaking for myself. I would get with Brandon and Dr. Nelson to get a clarification on that. And like most ambulance guys, they all go through the EVD class too. It's a good emergency vehicle driving class. And that might be just one stipulation you want to put on there. They've got the EVD training class to operate
Maybe
an
that they're
ambulance.
over 21 or something like that.
Yeah, and
Age restriction on it.
now that is a requirement we require at our department. It's 21. You got to be 21 years of age.
I think that'd be good. Just bring it back with that.
Go with that.
That's what we'll do.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm good with the rest of the policy other than tweaking that. FYI.
Okay, next on the agenda is the solar farm rezoning request. I thought you went to sleep on us.
All right, we are back again. Again, this is case number 24-1163. The request is by applicant Duke Energy Carolinas, LLC, DFC Stokes, LLC, and DFC Stokes 2, LLC to rezone approximately 667 plus minus acres from residential agricultural and light manufacturing M1 to light manufacturing conditional zoning M1CZ, a US 311 and Total Road and Old Town Road, listed as Stokes County parcels, and of course you can see those. I won't go through and read all those, but the request is to build a large-scale solar farm. And I believe at the last meeting we moved it to discussion. At this time, we do have some motions for you guys to consider, and I'm sure you've looked over all those, as well as a custom motion that you guys can fill in the blanks, basically. We've also been in contact with Duke Energy concerning some conditions for rezoning for your review. And at this time, if it would please the board, I don't know if Duke Energy has more comments they'd like to bring, or if we could proceed with that.
Can you outline the conditions?
Yes, sir. Just go through them. Okay. So the conditions were that, number one, Duke Energy would provide financial assurance of the availability of decommissioning funds in the form of a surety bond or other agreed-upon instrument in the amount deemed accessible by the decommissioning plan approved by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services or any other department of the state of North Carolina pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 130A-309.240 1 and E5. Said surety bond shall name the County of Stokes as the obligee, providing such financial assurance to Stokes County will be done at an agreed upon date between Duke Energy and Stokes County. Number two, that Duke Energy will provide copies of any reports being sent to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality regarding this specific project. Number three, that Duke Energy will not utilize any solar modules containing and this, I'm going to mess this word up completely, but it is polyfluoroalkyl substances, also known as PFAS. Duke Energy will require that any manufacturer of the solar modules utilized in this project submit a letter certifying that the subject products are free from PFAS. Duke Energy will provide copies of said letter to the county. Number four, that Duke Energy will commission, and I have been asked, Steve had asked me if we could possibly remove this next statement where it states, or require the property owner. They've asked that we remove that statement, and Ty, I'm going to leave that to you to see if that's appropriate. It seemed appropriate to me. That Duke Energy will commission a cultural resources survey prior to the initiation of construction to ensure that the culturally sensitive sites are protected. If any culturally sensitive sites are located through the survey, no construction activity will take place within 50 feet of said culturally sensitive sites. For the purposes of this provision, culturally sensitive site shall mean the known location of human remains or any site determined by the North Carolina State Historic Preservation Office of requiring a buffer from construction activities. Number five, that Duke Energy will construct a vegetative buffer made up of drought-tolerant evergreens, which shall be located as shown on the landscape plan submitted to the county as part of the application. Said evergreens shall be a minimum of 4 feet tall when initially planted. There shall be no more than 10 feet between each planting. The vegetative buffer shall be inspected by Duke Energy at least annually, and any plants found missing or damaged shall be replaced within 3 months after discovery. Duke Energy shall provide copies of the annual assessment and descriptions of corrective actions to the county. Number six, that Duke Energy will provide financial assurance of vegetative buffer maintenance in the form of a surety bond or other agreed upon instrument in the amount of 10% of the initial cost of the implementation of the vegetative buffer. Said surety bond shall name Stokes County as the obligee. Said surety bond shall be maintained for a period of 15 years after the construction of this specific project. After 15 years has elapsed, if the vegetative buffer has been maintained adequately, the surety bond amount may be reduced in the amount of 5% of the initial cost of implementation of the vegetative buffer for the duration of the project. And that concludes the conditions we came up with for rezoning.
Any questions, comments?
Duke Energy's agreed to all those conditions.
Yeah, to the best of my understanding, Duke has agreed to those terms.
I got comments here. You want me to start?
Sure.
Unless Duke Energy's going to say anything, or you guys want to say anything before I start?
Presented information. We just want to be here to answer your questions.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. Okay, I'd like to start by going back to my policy discussion from our last meeting when we were talking about this. Like I said, I would like to shift from a prevent solar farms mode, which we're too late to do that, but to a solar farm containment type strategy with a fixed percentage limitation on the number of acres in Stokes County that can be placed in commercial solar farms. I think this needs to be done quickly to prevent further solar farm expansion. Unfortunately, we do not have such a policy limiting commercial solar farm expansion in place at this time that could be applied to the request from Duke Energy. Because of previous solar farm approvals, we have by default established a commercial solar location in and around the Walnut Cove area that I guess is there to maximize the existing transmission lines that go into the Duke Energy grid. I would hope that my policy recommendations could formalize our current solar farm status into a formal solar farm zone with fixed boundaries and numbers to stop future commercial solar farms after the new policy is approved. In reference to the Duke Energy request, I think it's important that we treat their request fairly and consistently based on what the county has done with previous solar farms. I think it's important to note that the County Planning Board and Commissioners have already approved a large commercial solar farm on Toll Road that is near the one being requested by Duke Energy. It was also found to be consistent with the county's 2035 long-range plan. It was also approved with a company that we know much less about than we do Duke Energy. If that solar farm had not been approved, I would probably have a little different view of the Duke Energy request, but realistically, Tuttle Road is already a solar farm zone. The issue to reduce property values has also been raised by surrounding property owners, but analysis provided by Duke Energy with some court cases and so forth to back it up shows that historically, these solar farms have not had a significant negative impact on property values. As a matter of fact, there's other things you can do on a farm that would have a much more negative impact on property values than a solar farm, I think, would. Our tax administrator has also taken an informal look at this in Stokes County and has found no evidence that solar farms or other utility infrastructure negatively impacts property values. So based on the information I've just stated and my experience in dealing with Duke Energy, I reached the following conclusions. The first one is Duke Energy has been a strong partner with Stokes County who can be trusted to keep their commitments to the county. They have also been a key player in the financial health of the county, and their future plans at Blues Creek will significantly increase the financial support, which translate to a reduced tax burden on individual taxpayers. And I would state again, the county has no policy in place at this time that would support us denying Duke Energy's request, given our approval of the two previous solar farm requests. More specifically, I feel it would be inconsistent and hard to justify denying Duke Energy's request when the county approved a comparable size solar farm on the same road and right beside Duke Energy's location to a lesser known company. And then last of all, Duke Energy has been very responsive to the solar farm application process and has also, as just stated, agreed to additional conditions that we requested that they consider, which I think shows a real good faith effort on their part. And for those reasons, I think the county should approve Duke Energy's request and through additional policy changes, hopefully make this the last commercial solar farm we approve within the boundaries of Stokes County. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Who wants to go next?
You want me to go? Well, I will say that this was not the board that approved those other solar farms, although I see where you're coming from about there being a sort of a precedent, but this board didn't approve those other ones. And the Bear Branch one is half the size of this one. Can somebody tell me when the moratorium that we had on solar farms actually expired?
Last August, I think.
It was in August.
That's my knowledge, that is correct.
Okay. Well, we probably should have renewed that when we had the chance. I've just received several calls and emails this weekend and texts from people opposed to this. And I'll just preface this by saying I'm all for renewable energy. If people want to have solar panels on their homes or businesses, I'm all for it. However, I'm just not favorable to large-scale solar farms. And this would be the first one that I have had an opportunity to vote on since I've been a commissioner. I just feel like they take up way too much land that could be utilized for other things for the return on the investment that they give. I don't think that the 50 feet is far enough from any cultural sensitive sites. In the conditions, I didn't agree with that condition. However, I do like the conditions. I think they're helpful if you're going to do it, but I just think that wouldn't be quite enough distance. One question I would have is why can't this solar farm be built on land that Duke Energy already owns? And they can answer that if they care to in just a minute. I am worried about the oversaturation of one area of our county. I think it could cause a disproportionate impact to just one area of our county. I think it could create disparities in land use and economic opportunities for that area. I just think that we need more of a balanced approach. That would be, and I don't know, because I say a balanced approach, but I'm really against building them anywhere in the county. But I'm certainly against putting them all right there together in one place. I just think that it has the possibility of impeding our long-term vision and what we see as what the community values and our heritage here. I know that Duke Energy is already buying power from Lick Creek and has committed to Bear Branch, which has not even been started yet, and that's 320 acres. And I'll agree. I'll say I'm not an expert on power and what all it takes, but I feel like switching to nuclear is a good way to solve our energy crisis, what's needed, and we know North Carolina is growing and is going to require more energy. But what it feels like to me is that Duke Energy is diversifying their portfolio to seem more palatable to certain groups and government agencies and so forth. And, I just don't think it's fair to sell out our county. So, and that's what it feels like to me is selling out. just to make that happen. And it just doesn't seem like the return on the investment is worth it to our county and our citizens, because they have let me know that they are opposed to this. And it's interesting to me that the 40 most economically distressed counties in North Carolina host a disproportionate amount of solar farms. Recently, a representative from the Department of Agriculture spoke in a committee in Raleigh about how the state is quickly losing farmland and how solar development is outpacing the efforts to preserve farmland, and that's a concern of mine. So, I also have a lot of concerns about the environmental concerns that we don't know. There's so many unknowns, and the decommissioning and the land restoration and things like that are, you can put it in there, but 35 years from now, there's no way to know that it's going to happen. And our planning and zoning committee didn't approve it, and I think that says a lot. I just don't think it does enough to help our citizens. There's too many unknowns. I feel like that our county has been steadfastly committed to agritourism and value-added agricultural opportunities, and I just feel like this is counterintuitive to that. So I would not be in favor of it.
Wayne? Well, first off, I'd iterate something she said there. The planning board didn't approve this of the 2035 plan, and so I took it up on myself. The last 2 weekends, I've been riding around looking at solar farms, and from what I've seen, most of it, I'm not impressed. It looks like it's something that's been put in and forgot about. A lot of growth and all that kind of stuff, and I know there's a lot of downsides to solar farms. I've been on the internet looking at them. I looked at one in Texas in 2021, wiped out 1,000 acres due to a hailstorm, and you got to look at if all those things were busted, where did all that stuff run off to, environmental wise and all that. And I myself have had personal conversations with people this weekend, even emails, texts, and I kind of got to go with the people that elected me to serve on this board. They're against this, and I've not really seen anything that, that would sway me one way or the other. But I really appreciate what Duke has done for our county. I really do. Agree. I think the nuclear is the way to go down the road. But I work for a company that we had an old coal-fired boiler, and we saw that coming out of the picture, so we switched over to natural gas, and which is the best thing that we ever done. And I'm sure when Duke switches over to nuclear, that'll be one of the best things they've ever done. But right now, I'm just not in favor of them.
Grant? So, real quick, first of all, I think we do need to move quickly after this meeting to come up with some kind of guideline that we can put into effect that limits the amount of acreage that we give to solar farms. Duke Energy is I don't like solar farms. I'm personally, the Duke Energy is not going anywhere. We've already got solar farms in that area right down the road even. And even though I wasn't on the board that approved it, just like Sonia, I don't know how you can honestly look at the landowner and Duke Energy and say, well, we approved it just down the road, but we're not gonna approve yours. And the thing that impressed me, because
I don't know, Jeff, it was 2 days or the day after the meeting. I mean, I got a hold of the manager and we went. My concerns, I listened to the people that showed up at the public hearing to either for it or against it, and when there was a lot of people against it, and every single thing, every single reason, even down to where with the historical society, in terms of the, you know, of the cultural, historical nature, you know, of that piece of property, Duke has responded to everything that I've asked in terms of this zoning, conditions for zoning. We even put in there listening to the people that, just like what you know, Commissioner Barnacastle talked about, you know, it's just some of the other solar farms are just grown up, they're, you know, they look kind of trashy. We've got, and Duke has agreed to continue to maintain the vegetation. And again, Duke is not going anywhere in the next 15, 30 years. So I think that with them going along with answering every single condition that, and it's not just from me, it's just from me listening to the people up here that were objecting to the solar farm. And then, and I'm hoping that we'll have legislation soon that does away with the preferential treatment of taxes for solar farms. In other words, that it will be a full amount, full tax. It won't be half-hearted if it, you know, if it does get approved by the Senate and the House and then gets by our governor to sign. I think that would be another huge benefit that would help Stokes County financially if that would happen. So I'm in favor of approving the rezoning based on these conditions. And also, like I mentioned when I started my little speech, was that we've got to lock down, it's got to be a priority for us to lock down what the future parameters are going to be for solar farms. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thanks. So it's up to me.
Well, you could have went before me. You chose.
First of all, Duke Energy Jim, Randy Honeycutt, who I meet with every month, discuss other things. Y'all just first class. This is not a reflection on y'all. I'm going to cut this short because a lot of the phone calls and emails and texts that we're on the same loop. I had one call and 4, and every other call was against the rest of them. And I'm asking the questions the citizens wanted to know. Number 1 was, why ain't you putting it on your land? And if you want to address that, come on up, Jim. Yeah, come on. I'll finish talking to him.
Yeah, just a couple of things. One, we have looked at the future, and Steve can correct me if I'm wrong. I'll give him that opportunity working in the solar group. But we've looked at the possibility of doing a solar farm on land that Duke owns kind of all around the lake, and it was just too sporadic. There were too many small pockets. It just wasn't economical to be able to tie it all together and feed back into the grid. And then as our folks were looking at opportunities for a solar farm, identified this tract of land that was close to a transmission line to tie it in. My understanding is we contacted Mr. Couch and DFC Stokes to determine if they would be willing to enter into a lease agreement. And after, I think, quite significant negotiations, kind of determined that the conditions that we could operate. So that was the reason for this land. It's just a lot more economical. It's a larger farm. And just to speak a little bit too, if you don't mind, give me a little bit of a minute. Commissioner Cox, you had mentioned the cost benefit of the project. Just to make it clear, Duke Energy, this would be a regulated asset. So we have to put in what the cost is going to be. The Utilities Commission and the public staff, which is the public staff usually does the analysis, engineers, accountants and lawyers kind of look through all the detail, but they're the ones that have to determine that it's in the best interest of our ratepayers, all ratepayers, and ones here in Stokes County as well as the entire North Carolina system, to determine whether or not it would be, in good, it would make good sense to do that. So they're determining, and they have on a lot of these other solar farms that we've entered into, and some that Duke owns and some we've agreed to purchase, that it makes sense. Our approach to meeting the demand, as we shared in opening remarks a couple of weeks ago, is all of the above. We need nuclear. We're going to continue to try to continue to license our existing nuclear. We want to build new nuclear. I really appreciate the partnership here at with Stokes County. We need gas. We need wind. So it's going to take just about everything we can muster to put on the grid. And it does. The one thing that's a benefit with solar farms is there's no fuel cost. Duke Energy passes the fuel cost on to customers. We don't make any return on that. But when the solar farms are producing, putting the money into a battery system, there's no fuel cost that gets passed on. So that's some of the economic benefit of that. Granted, its efficiency is much less than a nuclear plant or any other facility, but it still is a benefit to the grid overall. And the other thing that I would just share too, as far as the cost benefit, as we've shared, a solar farm is really a good neighbor. There's no smells, there's no traffic, there's no lights. It just kind of sits there. And the point is, at some point in the future, the solar farm can be removed and that land can be returned to agricultural use. I think there have been studies, and anything you search on the internet, you can find out why not or why to. But there is a lot, I think, some studies that show that the land, it's not being farmed for those years that it's a solar farm, and so it's easy to return that. Versus, say, a housing development or something along those lines, industrial property, you pretty much have lost that to farmland. And I know there are studies that show that North Carolina has lost a lot more land to residential development, that sort of thing, than to solar farms. And then the last thing just to share is it is a windfall, in my opinion, as far as the tax revenues that will come to the county. It's really, solar farm is very little impact on county services. So that like we said, at a minimum, it'll be more than $250,000 a year in tax revenues. And as I think a couple of folks have stated, there is a bill that would do away with the tax exemption, which would mean the annual revenue coming to the county would probably be closer to $1.25 million a year in annual tax revenues if that exemption goes away. So I think there is a pretty good upside for Stokes County. Granted, most of what I've heard, from folks, I think it really is about the aesthetics. And, just ask you not to judge us on the solar farm that's existing over on Martin Luther King Road. We're gonna do it a lot better. We've got much further setbacks. Commissioner Cox, you're concerned about the setback from the cultural resources. We're open to evaluating that once they're determined if it needs to be more than that to make sure there's a nice buffer there. But we'd be very, very respectful of any kind of cultural impacts that may arise in any additional studies. And I do know that Mr. Couch has done an extensive cultural study, so we'll just evaluate further on top of that. So we really do like the aspect of this site and think it could be beneficial to all, and appreciate your time and consideration today. I don't know if you have any additional questions.
No, I'm just going to finish up my comments.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate your time today.
No problem. Thank you. Another thing I've done that's come out of all of this, I've never been on Tuttle Road, and I'm 73 years old. Mr. Couch, you got one of the most beautiful farms in Stokes County. And why you want to do this, I do not know. But I served on the planning board for years before I done this, and one of the biggest kick in the gut was when I voted something down and the commissioners overrode me. So I will not vote against the planning board. and the people do not want this. It's solar farms in general. It's not yours. And the trend nationwide is the people don't want them. There's a bill in Raleigh right now to protect agricultural land. And if you got to have a solar farm, use some vacant industrial. The one thing that popped in my sick mind, call R.J. Reynolds and put this thing at Brook Cove. But I can't vote for it, and we'll move this to action today. You got more questions? Mm-hmm. Okay.
Are you done?
I'm done. Y'all got anything else to say?
Yeah,
I'm done.
I have a question for Eric. This planning board determination that this was not consistent with 2035 plan, were they told that, what's the one that's on Tuttle Road now that's already been approved? What's the name of it?
It's Bear Branch.
Bear Branch.
Mm-hmm.
Were they told that Bear Branch was considered inconsistent by the previous planning board and planning director? And by you or by somebody, whenever they drew the conclusion that it was inconsistent with the 2035 plan?
No, in their packet, they got the same packet you did.
Mm-hmm.
And my recommendation was based off of the surrounding land use that was brought about in the 2035 plan. I didn't go back and reference anybody else's decision on what they decided to do.
So it was
I looked at the 2035
It was
plan.
just based strictly on the fact that you made
Yes.
that determination.
Yes.
And the previous planning director made a totally different determination.
Yeah, I don't base my determination on his.
I know you don't, but I'm just saying he did.
Yes, he
and
did.
The planning
That's
board
correct.
that approved the, what's it called, Bear Creek?
Bear
Creek
Branch.
also found it consistent.
Yes, sir.
And so that seems a little strange to me. I mean,
There's different people on the planning board now than were there then.
yeah.
Well, I will say there were two different files on the same place. One of them had consistent, the other one had inconsistent. So I'll let you take judgment on that as you will.
Well, I just think there may have been some confusion with the planning board on what the previous things had been done before you got here when David was still here.
That wasn't I didn't take that away from it at all.
Okay. I was just curious if that was the case. I just don't like the inconsistency of these decisions. Basically, what's the size of the one Bear Creek? Is it 500 and something acres?
No, the internet says 300 and something, 330.
I believe that's correct. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me for that.
I've heard it referred to as over 500. Does anybody know for sure?
320 is what the internet says.
Oh, okay.
I googled how big it was.
Oh, did you? Okay.
That's what it said.
I mean, we've been saying over 500
Yeah.
for recently. I thought it was larger than that. Okay.
Maybe it can be expanded.
That's all I have. I just, Son, you said you didn't like the idea of them all being in one place, but they already are. And I don't see the wisdom of taking a chance of having another big one come along and get stuck somewhere else in the county. But that's just a difference of opinion.
Well, I would
Like
probably, if I lived in Walnut Cove, I would probably feel the same way the people that contacted me feel about it. If they're so great, spread them around all over the county.
I don't think anybody thinks they're great.
I don't think so either.
I despise them, to be honest with you, but I'd really like to see the county treat businesses consistently. I don't think we're doing that here. So.
May I add something real quick? Okay. So if you notice in my report, I also mentioned that they have gone out of their way to do and be everything that they've been asked to do. I will say that for Duke Energy, and I respect that. And I feel like they're going out of their way to really try to present something in a way that the best that they can.
Okay. And we're moving this to action, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Sure. My name's David Couch, and I own the
DFC Stokes, and I'm the neighbor to the Bear Branch facility adjacent across the street. And I'm also the neighbor to the Lick Creek facility adjacent. And I also noticed in the planning director's report that there is a difference in the way this planning department approached, whether it's consistent with the 2035 plan and whether it's not. So it's left me, and I noticed in the report that the planning department felt like my land needed to be kept as open space. So I'd like to point out a couple of things. One, I don't think that's fair for me to have the open space, but yet look out over to adjacent solar farms. And I went by today to see the Martin Luther King frontage, and that is clearly, have any of you been there to see that?
About 5 times last week.
Then if you notice, they did a pretty good job a little higher up Martin Luther King of putting in a screening fence. But the difference there is the proximity of the fence to the right-of-way. The fact that every one of the plants that have been planted there have been burned to beyond recognition. You can't even tell that they were put in unless you're looking carefully. And we do a lot of landscape maintenance with our real estate company, and so we know what a dead plant looks like. Every one of them are dead. In my opinion, that is without question an enforcement issue. And if the folks that are emailing and texting you are concerned about what it looks like, I have to agree with them 1,000%. But 1,000% it's within Stokes County's wherewithal to enforce the fact that they replant that buffer and irrigate it this time, maybe plant it in the fall, September, October, so that it stands a chance of living. Why in the world they didn't require, someone didn't require, or they didn't offer to put in the same screening fence on the first part that you see on the left as you go up Martin Luther King, in addition to the planting buffers, is beyond me. But it would have made a difference even after all the plants died. So I want to first thank you for your time and your comments and for offering the input of the community. But as the third largest taxpayer after this project, it does seem like an arbitrary decision to have approved one north of me, approved adjacent, and approved one south of me, but yet require of me to provide the open space when other planning departments and other planning boards and other commissioner councils have already voted in my 2 neighbors and dictated for me what I've got to look at. I do think it makes an abundance of wisdom to define the boundaries where solar should occur. With the billions of dollars of investment that Duke Power has in that facility, there are limited opportunities for injection of solar up onto a transmission line. And their land is spotty with the ability to put that up on their transmission line. And so it would seem logical to retain their land for nuclear and for other, maybe cheaper, hopefully, but also other means of providing us in North Carolina with the power that we need. So before your vote, I would just like to appeal to your sense of my ownership, my stewardship of that land, what it looked like before I bought it, what it looks like today, and the fact that we are gaining not one but 2 more forms of farming, and that is farming the sun's energy for our power and also farming the sheep that will be there. We will not lose one element of the farming that goes on there. And I, for one, have in my contract the means to hold Duke Power accountable for the buffers that you saw on the pictures, and promise you it will not look like Martin Luther King, whether the county chooses to enforce those boundaries or not. So I thank you again for your time, and appreciate and respect your decisions. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is the scope, program, budget, and resolution amendment. Tammy Martin presenting.
Good afternoon.
Friends.
and friends.
An associate.
We're here today for the opioid prevention program. The 2 contracts that we have need to be extended. They run out June the 30th of 25 this year. The community paramedic and the peer support specialist position. You have a copy of the budget. I'll get to that in a second. I'm just going to wrap this up. Okay. This is just highlights of what's happened this year. The ED overdose visit rate has fell within 24 to the emergency rooms. Narcan, we've been doing more classes and trainings within the community. The libraries now have Narcan to give out to the residents. The senior centers have had training and they've had Narcan given to them too. We have xylazine and fentanyl test strips available at the health department now. The peer support, she started in October and she's been doing a great job. And just a little bit about what she has done since she started. That was from October to the end of March, then a 164-day span of time. We've had 179 MAT appointments, and that's the medication-assisted treatment that they receive to try to come off opioids. And the peer support has had 87 appointments during that time. She also has received or sent almost 4,000 texts to her clients. And then there's 31, that's average 31 a day. That's including weekends. They reach out to her 24 hours a day. She really doesn't get a break. She has helped with some situations that have occurred where we've had to call law enforcement too. She's de-escalated some of those, and we got them a little bit calmed down before, anything happened in our departments. Okay, that's just the overdose graph of the numbers that were on the previous slide of how it's come down in 24, the ED visits for overdoses. That's the where we want to extend the community paramedic through 2030 and extend the peer support specialist through 2030. Also, the accountability and recovery court, that's just started. They're still doing training. I don't think they're fully in.
They plan to start in July with seeing cases.
And we are asking in this year's budget, the 25-26, with the support of the Board of Health, for another peer support specialist just for 1-year contract to determine if that is really what we need, because we think the peer support that we have now is going to slowly burn out because she's becoming more of a social worker also. She's helping find resources, transportation. She deals with parole for our clients also. So she's having to set boundaries on her off time. It's just a lot for one person to do. She's riding along with the EMS community paramedics on Thursdays now. And we would like to get another peer support specialist so we can have them out in the community more, maybe with the the community paramedic more often so they can go on those calls. Because one person can't do everything. This is the current 24-25 budget that we did. And it shows the payroll for the community paramedic, the prevention coordinator, and the ARC, and then the peer support that we have, the departmental supplies and all that. Total was $163,392 this year, and for next year, if the proposed changes are approved by you, then that's another $53,000. The LCSW is still out there. There's been no applications. I don't know that we will get any applications for the salary we're offering, and I know this money runs out. But that currently is what we're requesting for the 25-26 budget. Just increases for departmental supplies, stuff like that, and trainings. And this is where the Overdose Awareness Day will be in October this year. They're still trying to see, I think, where that's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be back at Fowler Park.
We haven't confirmed the location yet.
Savannah, who is the opioid prevention coordinator, she has posted that job on every source that she knows how to, send it out to everybody for the LCSW. It's just hard to get one right now, but that peer support would help us. We have just recently started, our FMP did get her licensure to do mental health counseling, and she has started doing mental health counseling. So we're hoping to get some of those clients, and I think a few are already in there that are ready for the counseling portion into her program. So now we're covering the mental health. Okay. And I want to go into one more thing. Our revenue so far in 24-25 for quarter one, we had $6,700 roughly odd dollars for the MAT program. Quarter two was $7,600, and then quarter three was $10,773. We keep seeing new MAT clients, so that's going to rise. And we're hoping, and I know the money runs out in 15 years, I believe now, that we can have self-sustaining through our revenue for some of those, because if a peer support, they know their contract will end if we don't really need their services. So it's not a full-time position. So the mental health, we're trying to bring in a revenue through it, so when these funds end, we'll be on the mental health end and try to hit it with prevention instead of what we're doing now, playing catch up with the money that we receive from the settlements of past opioid dispensing.
So I just want to make sure you guys are fully aware that this request is 100% supported by the Board of Professionals that you appointed, the Board of Health, from our last meeting and our meeting in February. So with this resolution being supported, the peer support specialist has really started to backfill the LCSW licensed clinical social worker with the case management. Case management is just that, getting people in the door, checking on their status, making sure needs are met. LCSWs are expensive. The peer support's not, and their contract. So if we have a problem with them, contract ends. No HR issues. Money runs out, contract ends. Much like with our medical director. That was all grant money that first year. So give me a chance, revenue will back it up. Okay? So with Medicaid expansion, and the only thing that it might go away with Medicaid first would be dental. So it will not currently have any foreseen impacts on our ability to sign people up for Medicaid to get them where it's a revenue generating program. I will tell you, if you look at quarter three, like she was talking about, those increases, that's because of peer support. They trust her, they trust peer support because they've been there. They know how to talk the language and they get them in the door. Having the second one will increase the amount of time that peer support can spend with the community paramedics in the field, which increases the harm reduction component, which is a big part of the requirements for the money that we're spending. Again, for everybody listening, this is not tax money. This is settlement dollars. Yes, it does end, but that's part of the evolution of the program. Providing mental health, case management, getting people in the door, the harm reduction, and trying to get a component, a hand on what's getting people into this life. I will tell you that with these positions, again, it's making a huge impact. And by getting people in MAT is a Band-Aid. We're trading one addiction for the other. But we're trading an addiction that allows them to be productive, hopefully hold down a job, and take care, most importantly with social services, take care of their own kids. Not get to the point they have to be yanked out of their house and sent to other places. So those are some of the big benefits of this. Again, they're fulfilling the majority of the work the LCSW does, and then our nurse practitioner, who is a mid-level psychiatrist essentially with that credential, is fulfilling the mental health that the LCSW would have done. And we have the ability, not everything's a fit. All right, let's say Keith here goes to his doctor and it just doesn't fit. He's going to find somebody else. We have the ability with the networking that they've generated to refer these people somewhere else. for a fit, so we make sure they stay in programs. I would also like to introduce Beverly. Beverly Essig is our vice chair as well. So again, it's a big support component from your board. So do you guys have any questions?
I mean, first of all, y'all doing good work. You're showing a lot of improvement in bringing down the numbers in terms of, to what the original opioid crisis was. And then, of course, we already know now that, those numbers are coming down, but guess what? Now we got more numbers coming up with a different flavor of a drug that's coming in. And if you remember, one of the things that I really talked about a lot when we were first kind of going in, which we're going option A, option B, and kind of helter-skelter there for a while. We were trying to figure things out as well of what to do and where to put the program. But one of the big things has been grants. Are we actively applying for grants, and have we received any grants?
So one of the components with this is telehealth, specifically telehealth infrastructure. I was able to capture that grant. I hit the button at 4:57. It was due by 5 o'clock. It just happened to be one of those block grants that was out there. Eric Bell with the state called me the other day. They have pulled that money to the side so it can't be reverted. And that's $250,000. They should start receiving the ability to expense that for telehealth infrastructure. And what that's going to do is help people in crisis. When they're having a crisis, they can log in and request a telehealth visit, even if it's working with the peer support specialist to get somebody there now and figure out what's the best option. Do we get them with a community paramedic and get them up to the public health? And the other thing is to remember that even if, let's say they've turned to meth, this is opioid money, but let's say because this is separate from opioid, methamphetamine is not there, and it's outside the scope of this funding, but still our department's there. And because they're not, the difference between us and say what was October Road, they are something else now, Pyramid, is that they're saying a board certified physician, and there's medications. There's specifically one primary medication that can be prescribed by Dr. Vu or Marie, the MP, to help get them channeled through that. And then they are still able to see our nurse practitioner. We're able to work the same pathway for Medicaid expansion, for revenue reimbursement, and those concepts. So while this is about opioid settlement money, we also, because we built this platform, have the option of addressing other substance misuse issues, if that makes sense. So that's one grant. We applied for a $408,000 one specifically for the mental health nurse practitioner. Haven't heard back because some of those people have been furloughed. They're at home waiting to see if they got a job. But it's not been denied yet. And what that would do is help offset the nurse practitioner's salary so that we could add another mid-level PA to see the increased patient volume. You got to remember, this whole area is a healthcare desert. Even with the potential of what will or may happen with the hospital and clinics there, public health is still a big component for meeting all the dynamics of daily health and living. We're the stopgap. So to answer your question, yes, grants being applied for that.
If let's say you have another peer support specialist, but it's paid for by some other grant, or even if the county funds it out of the general fund, does that prohibit that person from assisting and doing what our current peer support specialist is doing? So in other words, is there Is there a wall that's built up that?
Yeah, I see. There is some parameters, but I'll let Director Martin answer that for you.
With the opioid funds versus
No,
grants, or just
no. If we just say on a whim that we find an extra $100,000 that we want to give you to fund another peer support specialist, can that peer support specialist still do the same thing that?
Yeah, she can still do the same thing. She could probably even do more, because with what we are now, with the contract with our peer support now is mainly opioid centered. Then she is mainly focusing on those trying to get off opioids. And
it can be other codependencies.
It can be other, but most of her time needs to go towards opioids for the funding. But if we had other, she could actually go out and do more of a social work role and not be dedicated to opioid patients.
And the flip side of that is most people doing meth are also doing some other type of opioid, whether it's a tablet, fentanyl, or anything else. So they still fall in there, even though their primary high right now is meth. So it's like anything else. They tell you have to go down this path. As long as you stay in those white lines, you're good. You can cross the yellow line, don't cross the white lines. So you find the reason that they fit that key.
So in other words, nobody's being turned away for services because of the drug of choice is not something that's an opioid, because there are, like you're saying, they're using multiple substances, there's multiple addictions and things like that. And I'm going to throw this in there too. I think when you see that drug court or the accountability and recovery court start up, you're going to see even more referrals, and that's why this position is going to be even more important. Even if it's just a 1-year contract, it would be worth doing, just because I think, for one thing, you're going to have the peer support specialist you currently have is going to get burned out, because it is almost a 24/7. And when somebody's in a crisis, it ain't always between 9 and 5 or 9 and 8. It's a lot of times it's in the middle of the night and other times. And the people who are in this mindset with their drug addiction is that this person is so important because they have lived experience and they know they can trust them because they've been there. And that's why I think the peer support specialist is probably the most important thing you can spend this money on. And and we know it's going to end. And we know there's no guarantees that you're going to be able to keep funding this unless, as Chad said, you create funding sources by the mental health and the grants and things and that's part of the job of Scope, is to find those grant opportunities and apply for them to keep the funding going longer and expanding the scope of what the program even is.
And once that program starts in the court system, our peer support will be there too, and that way would be another reason we would need an additional one, because they're requesting her to be at all of those. So she's going to be stretched real thin.
Exactly. I don't have a problem with it, especially knowing that it's from that settlement money and that's what the intended purpose was.
It's not tax dollars that we're talking about today. 3 years ago, when I was appointed to the board, my primary goal isn't to hold hands. That's not my gig. You know that. But my primary thing is to keep people productive, get them out of this, break that cycle, keep them from breaking into houses, keep from tying up deputies, violating people, making them not feel safe in homes, because that's what they do. That's what a lot of these people do. They're not productive. They're not providing an impact to society. They're not taking care of their own kids. So we break this cycle, and hopefully you're gonna have a 50-50 shot, okay? But peer support has demonstrated a 50% increase in success. So these are very inexpensive positions. They're contracted. Like I said, no HR issues, no anything. They can cut them off anytime, just like with the money. So, any other questions?
had a question. Does this require us to move this to action because it's a budget amendment, or will we further discuss it during budget times? Or it's since it's its own budget and it's not part of our county budget?
Could be either.
Okay.
It's a regular resolution. It can be done anytime.
Okay.
Just those two positions need to be approved before the new fiscal year because they run out June 30th.
Okay.
I mean,
Our
two
whole
existing
budget will be
positions.
approved by then anyway. Thank you.
Good.
Just not sure if we should move it to action. It doesn't sound like you have to today. She said just by the end of the fiscal year.
Is it gonna be on discussion next meeting? I mean, action next meeting? Is that what you're saying?
What I would do.
Don't confuse me, there's two of you now. Which one's got it covered? Okay, Stuart will talk about Moatoc Park hours and bridge replacement. Probably the next 2 or 3 items.
Hope y'all doing good. So I guess from the previous meeting that we had on the park, we kind of left it, we really didn't come up with a plan. So I guess now we're gonna maybe try to revisit and see what we can come up with. I still think we're leaning toward maybe leaving one side open, closing the other. It's pretty much up to the board. I just want to see kind of what y'all think and which way we need to go with this. But that's kind of what we're leaning toward. Still give folks a way in and a way out. For the meantime, we can't control these people on weekends, so I mean they're going to have free reign to go wherever they want to do. It don't matter what we do, what we put up. I know the DOT has sent emails expressing that they've designed this whole project and worked it around to where we could operate the park, and we do appreciate that. They've made mention of having silt fence trenched in, but it's not a construction fence. They said that they could have the contractor do that. I don't know that they will. So I guess all of us together needs to kind of make a decision on what we want to go with, and we'll try to enforce it best we can, and if we have to back up, we will.
I'd be fine with trying to leave one side open.
It'd be easier to close the whole thing later than to.
Yeah, I mean, we could try it.
I'm good with that. Just make it clear that we may change our mind later depending on what we actually experience there.
Okay. What is the plan to get word out? I mean, the word's out that we're shutting the whole thing down, by the way, in case you hadn't heard that.
Yeah, I've heard that. I guess we'll get it on the website. Get it on the county Facebook.
When
Get it on the
will this go
website.
in effect? What you got in mind?
I'm
I've been told rebar is going to be needed in a couple of months.
I'm waiting on DOT. I'm really waiting on the construction barriers to go up. I kind of wanted to leave it open where people could utilize it until they went in there and actually started doing something.
We were talking earlier, how many cables, does it control all of Stokes County crossing that bridge? I've seen more different companies moving cables than I've even thought about across that bridge.
They were moving some cables today, matter of fact.
Again?
Yeah, they're wanting to work tonight, so they got with us today to make sure the gate wouldn't be locked, so they could come in tonight, do some work, going by what happened last week with the accident in Eden. So they're trying to be careful of doing. But yeah, there's been a lot of cables that's been moved. So that's.
Take action on this, or just consensus?
I'd say if we can have a consensus on it, then I can kind of just play it by ear when DOT's. And if everybody's good with it, then we can make that decision when they come in and start.
We got to vote on it, just give you permission. I think
I think consensus is fine. If there's
Anybody
no
against it?
objection with the
Wayne's got a question.
suggestion.
Is there any way that we could put signs up there at 889 where they can't put in right there and go down the river? 'Cause you know they're gonna come out right down at that construction site. I know the silt fence will be a temporary thing. They can just tear it down.
Yeah.
You know? But
Yeah.
the problem is if they go up there and put in, they gonna come all the way right to the construction site on the left hand side there. Part we're talking about closing. You know, where they can't.
As long as they don't get out of the river, they'll be all right.
And they can still, they can get out or exit the river on the store side.
Yeah.
You know, the store has those
Right,
steps
store
there.
side.
If they would. That's the
it.
thing.
Want to
Parking
circle
lot
around.
is shut off.
Lazy river.
If the parking lot is blocked
Go there.
on the left side, then I don't think anybody's gonna like park their cars to. But if they can get out on the right hand side, then they'll park their cars down there and they'll float down 88 and 9 and they'll come out and get out right down there on the other side of the bridge.
Well, but
We should. They should.
And if not, we'll
Yeah, I mean, I ain't got no problem with it. I'm just.
What are you doing on Sundays? You can hand out flowers.
Yeah. That's what I should do. I can't even remember to eat supper. Okay.
They usually have a deputy there on the weekends, don't they? Or do they?
Yeah, and I've talked to, and that's kind of something else that's kind of been, in limbo. We're trying to see what we're going to do, when we're going to close it, how we were going to close it, as far as having deputies, there. So we're probably going to go with that too once we get the other side. If it is open and it is crowded and we continue that process, that's probably what we're going to look at too. And they have. We have got the other additional parking lot in on the lower side. DOT was able to get it graded last week and it is paved. So now that doesn't have anything to do with the bridge project. This was prior couple of budgets that we wanted to add this parking lot. So it is in, and which is good. It'll give the folks a place to park instead of parking up and down the road, coming in there at the gate.
Got consensus to close the left side whenever DOT is ready to start construction, or whenever you think it's necessary.
I agree. You want to roll into the next one?
Yeah. So, wellhead protection plan. This was a plan that was put together by Rural Water. I requested that they do it. It's not something that's mandatory by the state. It's a volunteer program. It's pretty much the county as our water falls under the county. It's a system that we are saying that we're trying to be good stewards of the land by putting this in place, that we're going to try to protect our source water here in Danbury as best we can. It was drafted by Rural Water. I feel like did y'all get the info to look through and kind of read through it all? Their state
Numbing experience. Mind-numbing experience.
Well, there's a lot of stuff in here that's state, rules and regulations, but this plan, it highlights that and it kind of identifies some of the potential contaminant sources within the area. The thing with this one is it's the water system's under the county, but most of the system's in the town of Danbury, in the city. So the town, if the board was good with this plan, the town will adopt portions of this or most of it. The map may be a little different than. There was a map put together in 2004. It's pretty much identical to this, but it had another 150-foot buffer. So the town can go with the older map that was in place, or they could go with this map. This map was recently updated. So it's going to be up to town to enforce their setbacks as far as potential of property or what's going on within their ETJ. But it is a county plan, and I feel like it's a good plan, and it just kind of shows that we're doing what we need to do to try to protect the two wells that we have in Danbury.
What's the likely impact on surrounding property owners once you put this thing in place? Does it put any restrictions on them, what they can do, can't do, sell, not sell?
Well,
I assume it's surrounded by adjoining property owners.
Yeah, there's some specifics here that is law by state.
Yeah.
That would have to be followed, but it's going to be up to the town. I don't think it would really hinder. I don't know. I guess hinder to the maximum, but there would be some restrictions, and that's going to be left up to the town to determine how they want to do that.
Will the property owners have an opportunity to know about what's going on here before it gets approved?
Yeah, I've already presented this to the town council. They've reviewed, but yeah, the property owner could, yes. Once they know if a property comes up for sale, then they go to the town, and then that negotiations take place between those folks. It wouldn't involve us.
Does it require a public hearing or anything for the town to do this?
Not to my knowledge.
It can. If the town chooses to adopt this as part of, or portions of this as part of their zoning requirements, then there would be a public hearing required.
Okay.
If they intend to enforce provisions of this in less formal ways, then it wouldn't.
Seems like a perfect thing that would need a public hearing, in my opinion, but.
What do you want from us?
Go ahead, approval of this particular draft plan.
Just move it to action.
Yeah.
Okay.
If y'all good with it, then I'll take it back to the town. We'll get the town's thoughts and public hearings or what have you.
I'm good with it.
And there's no cost involved?
No cost.
All right, we'll move it to action. All right, the Green Box sticker site program.
So we think we talked about this last summer maybe. We sent out a letter to the folks. This here is, what I'm trying to do here is trying to save taxpayers some money. We're trying to limit any outside household garbage coming into the county. I know for a fact some is, and we can't police it and patrol it all, but I'm hoping these stickers will help to the extent of some of that. Especially Pinnacle and Pine Hall is where we're seeing the most. So I'm getting pretty close. If we go through with this, I need to go ahead and get the stickers, get them printed, get them coming so we can get them in the tax stuffers come July or August. Probably going to start out with 25,000 stickers. Richard in tax office has given me that number. That's a pretty good rounded number to get most of what we need. They're $153.57 per thousand, which would be around $3,839 for those stickers.
Households that have extra vehicles, I'm assuming they can buy
an
extra sticker.
We're going to have some extras made, and then if people needs extras, they can call me. I can give them one. We can, if they come up and they lose them over and over, then we can charge them. We can charge them $1 or whatever for a sticker. It'll come a 2-pack. It'll be the page will be like a half page. It'll tell who we are, Stokes County Solid Waste. It will list all the Green Box sites, what we can take. It'll have 2 stickers per paper, and that'll go on the inside of their vehicle. Some people's not going to want to put it on their windshield. Some, as long as they have that to show our sites. And our enforcement starts at our sites with our folks at the Green Box site. So a lot of this is going to be dependent on them to be checking people and making sure what is coming in is county residents. But I feel like that we can cut down on some of the out of county
trash. Walnut Cove, Pinnacle, we're pulling 40 tons a week. We're pulling a compactor every day, 4 to 5 a week, and we're packing them 10 to 11, 12 tons. So that's a whole lot. That's 160 tons a month, 1,920 tons per year.
Just at Pinnacle.
Just at Pinnacle,
Yeah.
just that one site.
Go down when the bridge goes out.
It's over 3,840 pounds per year that we're pulling out of Pinnacle right now.
I'm in favor of this. I think it's a good idea.
A lot of folks need good up there.
I think it's going
You need us to move this to action.
I just got a couple comments. I'm for anything to help, but let me just play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I've seen it in Cumberland. So where do you think so if the people are coming, say, from Patrick County and using our sites, and all of a sudden we stop that because they don't have a sticker, where do you think they're going to start dumping their trash?
I hope they take it back to Patrick County.
Well, what's the reason? I guess what I'm trying to say is there's got to be a reason why people, if they're living in Surrey or living in Patrick County, why are they loading up their trash and coming to Stokes County?
Because it's closer.
It's convenience. I think a lot of people in Surrey on the Surrey County line that work in Winston for South County, they hit Pinnacles. They're coming down 052. The same way with Pine Hall. I've had people go to Pine Hall and sit and watch, and a lot of people on Saturday when they leave the Pine Hall site, they'll go out to the main road 311 and take a right and cross the county line going back into Rockingham County. So I think it's convenient. I think it's the folks that are right on our county line is where we're getting the most of it. And for South County, we had a lady come in 2 weeks ago in Pinnacle. Made her show her registration. She was from South County. She had 10 bags of trash. So I know they're coming in.
Just visiting our friend in Pinnacle.
Let me ask this question, Stuart. So we mail out these stickers and our residents get them. Is there any way we can implement a policy if you're out of county, you gotta pay $20 or whatever if you want to put your trash here?
I think we could. I think we sure could.
I just thought of something. So if you're not a taxpayer, but you live in the county, but you don't own property, you're renting, so it would go to that owner and it would be their job to get it to the person that's renting that property.
Yeah, me and Richard's talked about the renter factor. We can get the property owners those stickers, then they would make sure that they get them to the renter. We'll tell them, look, you need to get these to your renters.
Okay. Shouldn't be a problem.
And one last thing. So how we're putting a lot on our green box personnel. All of them are part-time. I think they're great people. But when it comes to conflict resolution, I mean, what are we gonna? What are our guidelines to? And number one, we got to protect the safety of our employees. So I mean, should people get? I mean, I've seen people get upset at green box sites. I mean, just they're having a bad day anyway. And then you're trying to tell them you can't, throw in some, garden hose or something in there. And there's some mean people out there. They just, bad day, and they take it out on people who are just doing their job. But, so, typically they're out there by themselves. I know some places have, 2 people during peak hours and this and that and this and that. But, I mean, typically, how are they gonna? I know we have at one point before I come on the board approved cameras because there was some kind of assault or something like that. But I mean, do they work? Do they still work?
Yeah, we have the cameras in place. We have went back and looked at some footage. But what I tell everyone, just get a tag number. do not confront these people when they get out and they show out. Just get a tag number. Get me the tag number. I can call the right people, figure out who they are, where they're from. We've had to do that to a couple. I had one a couple of weeks ago show up over here off of Sizemore Road, raising Cain and just, causing a big stir. They sent me the tag number. I figured out who he was. He had emailed me. I had replied back to the email and told him, look, we're there to help. This is what we're trying to do. We're not trying to cause you any problems, but we're not going to take any problems that you're going to be causing. This is what we can and can't do. The next time he come in over there, he was the nicest person you've ever seen. They said he was a total different person when he showed up. So the trash in this county it's a job, and these people we're running hard, trying to keep it clean, keep it off the ground, and there's some people out here that's mean. I mean, they're not too friendly about it. But I've told them all, do not confront these people. Just get their tag number. We'll let the proper people take care of that at the proper time.
I just want to make sure that our employees feel safe and comfortable that we're gonna back them.
Yeah, I want to support them 100%.
And not throw them out into the wind. Like I say, they're dealing with all kinds of citizens. But I'm for it.
I agree with you.
I just want to make sure that we don't forget about them.
Right. We're not. We're not. Those folks are important to this solid waste functioning the way it does, and we're not going to forget them. I'm not going to forget them.
Somebody shows up without a sticker, they can still dump if they prove their.
Yeah. But we're going to say, okay, get you a sticker. We're going to do a grace period. Okay, once we get them out from say July to September or October, the stickers are coming. You've got your sticker. You need to get it in place. We'll give you that grace period. After say October, November, okay, stickers going to be enforced. Let's show it. Let's have it, and let's try to make this work. It's kind of what I'm thinking.
The counterfeit stickers start showing up.
Well, then we'll change, every other year we'll change colors. We're not going to keep them
I got you.
the same.
I think it's a good idea. It's worth a try. You don't know if you don't try.
That's right.
Goodbye, separate subject, but do you know when the road near Sizemore Road is going to be finished, where they're working on that?
I've not heard DOT hadn't mentioned anything to me.
I can answer that for you.
When it's done?
It's they have now got some contaminated dirt they got to get rid of, and now they're looking at 3 more months down the road. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
It's not that bad.
Got to have a special landfill to take it there.
I did go home to Moore Springs last time. Seems like it's so long. Okay.
You didn't have the right music on.
I need a helicopter.
So we're going to move this to action.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Yeah. All right. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Stuart. Appreciate it.
Next is TAC Commissioner appointments. I have no idea who's handling this.
Good.
I'm one of them ladies right there.
So Commissioner Morris currently serves on the TAC, which is the Transportation Advisory Committee, for both the rural planning organization that we're a part of for the rural part of the county, and then the Metropolitan Planning Organization, which the King part of the county is a part of. And I think that Commissioner Chandler has expressed interest in serving on both of these committees in lieu of Commissioner Morris, and that Commissioner Morris has agreed to it to the best of my knowledge. So we just need the commissioners to approve.
Does it need to be moved to action today?
Yeah, if we can. Just yeah, please.
There's also the Winston-Salem MPO too.
Yeah, that's the MPO. That's the Metropolitan.
That's what you're talking about. Okay.
And that's the one that we're in because of
That's the part
King.
you
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you only have
It is.
one, you
Yeah.
need to do the other.
Yeah, we can just include them in one vote.
Okay,
Yeah, that
that'd be
works.
good. Okay, our last item is Stokes Agent Planning Committee appointment. And that is Olivia.
It is, but I forgot my stuff. She's pulling it up for me. Thank you. So Tanya Gardner submitted an appointment application for the Stokes Aging Planning Committee. That application was attached for review, so we just need to, I assume, have her nominated, or is it a?
Yeah, just nominate.
So we have to have her
Nominate.
nominated.
Is it only one position?
Yeah, there's several vacancies right now
Yeah.
on that board. So they try to find people, but and thankfully they have.
We just approved somebody for this not long ago.
Probably a couple months ago, maybe.
Brandon Hooker went on it.
Yeah,
He's
okay.
been on there, I think, a year. And but yeah, they
Just need to nominate today.
yeah nominate. We'll just move it to action for the next meeting.
I'll nominate Tanya Gardner for the Stokes Aging Planning Committee appointment.
Gardner.
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 That brings us to action agenda. I hope one of you's got the list.
So the first item on the action agenda is the solar farm rezoning request.
And there should be documents.
I'll read it. I'll make a motion. I, Sonia Cox, make a motion to disapprove rezoning request number 24-1163 submitted by Duke Energy Carolinas LLC, DFC Stokes LLC, and DFC Stokes 2 LLC to rezone 667 acres from RA Residential Agriculture Zoning District and MI Light Manufacturing Zoning District to M1CZ Light Manufacturing Conditional Zoning for a large-scale solar farm. This request is not reasonable and in the best public interest of Stokes County citizens because it uses valuable agricultural-based uses, takes away from the natural beauty of Stokes County, and is not consistent with the Stokes County 2035 plan pertaining to land use.
Have a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All against, nay?
Aye.
Just say nay.
Hey, I'm against it.
I'm against it. All right, next.
Next up, we have the wellhead protection plan for Danbury Water System.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Next, we have the green box sticker program.
Motion to approve the green box sticker program.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then finally, the TAC commissioner appointment.
Do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
Aye.